We're back with the corruption scandal engulfing Trump's so-called border czar, Tom Homan. MSNBC broke the bombshell story that he'd accepted a bag filled with $50,000 in cash from what he thought were business executives, but were actually undercover FBI agents, and it was all caught on tape. The story, according to multiple people familiar with the probe and internal documents reviewed by MSNBC. It happened before he was back in government. Homan indicating that he could help the agents win contracts under Trump. The Trump DOJ later shut down that probe, claiming it was politically motivated. Homan is now fighting for his political life. He claims he did nothing wrong, but did not deny that he took a bag of cash.
Look, I did nothing criminal. I did nothing illegal. And it's hit piece after hit piece after hit piece. And I'm glad the FBI and DOJ came out and said, said that nothing illegal happened and nothing, no criminal activity.
Homan also making comments about working on a government paycheck and making sacrifices.
You're talking about a guy who spent 34 years enforcing the law. I mean, I left a very successful business that I ran to come back and work for a government again. I'm back on a government paycheck. Not only did I sacrifice my family sacrifices, I make sacrifices every day.
The FBI sting happened last summer. At the time, Homan was very publicly advertising his role in any second Trump term.
You got my word. Trump comes back in January, I'll be on his heels coming back, and I will run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen.
We learned later that Homan was consulting for a company that ran immigration detention facilities. The head of that company telling investors that they were about to make a lot of money from their friends in the Trump administration.
We're looking at a theoretical potential doubling of all of our services. This is, to us, an unprecedented opportunity to assist the federal government and the incoming Trump administration towards achieving a much more aggressive immigration policy.
Now, Democrats in both the House and Senate have launched formal inquiries demanding answers about why the DOJ shut down Homan's bribery investigation, also calling it a brazen cover-up to protect Donald Trump's allies. And many are now urging the FBI to release the tapes recording the moment when Homan took that bag of cash. Joining me now is Richard Painter, former chief White House ethics lawyer. Richard, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I have to put this in context. I caught The Untouchables last week. It was running on cable. I was like, I haven't seen this movie in years. And the idea of respectable government agents, the idea that we had a bunch of people who were untouchable, who couldn't be corrupted by the mob, who couldn't be corrupted by alcohol, who couldn't be corrupted. I know that's an old-fashioned way of thinking. But in your experience with government, is there any way we could justify having a powerful government official who's been caught taking $50,000 from undercover FBI agents? Is there any world where we could say that's okay?
Bags of cash. I haven't seen stories with that kind of bribery for a long time. It's amazing that we could have a federal government official in a high-ranking position who took bags of cash, $50,000, promising that he could get contracts for people. That's what we're told was on the tape. Now, I know that this was before the election and before he was actually selected to be the border czar and all of that, but he anticipated going into the Trump administration. This clearly meets the definition of bribery for the purposes of the Constitution, and the word bribery is in the impeachment clause of the Constitution. And the founders' concept of bribery was significantly broader than the current criminal statute. The criminal statute only allows you to prosecute someone who has been selected to be a government official or is a government official. So maybe he can skirt around the current criminal statute if he didn't take any action in return for the money or accept any more money after he was notified he would become the border czar. But this is clearly within the definition of bribery that's used for impeachment. A federal official could be impeached for this. That's what the framers intended when bribery was included in the impeachment clause. But am I surprised? No. I mean, look what Donald Trump did with Ukraine back in 2019, extracting a bribe, an investigation of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden in return for the official action of releasing the military aid. And he gets impeached, but the Senate acquits him. And we've had so many examples of quid pro quo in the first Trump administration and even more in the second Trump administration. The message is clear that this administration is open for business, and that includes the president's crypto business. We see countries from around the world, particularly in the Arab world, are investing in Liberty, his crypto firm.
Right, Liberty Coin, right.
Some of that may be unconstitutional, is unconstitutional under the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution. He doesn't care. He's got a 747 from Qatar, the same country that funds the Hamas organization, is giving him a 747. I guess that's okay. Anything goes in this administration.
They have clearly shown that they don't care, that they are open for business. They don't care if you're, keeping down information on a criminal conspiracy. I want to play you a soundbite from White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt today as she's talking about the Homan scandal. Get your thoughts on the other side.
This was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later.
So I have to say this, Richard. There is no circumstance under which you can't say that someone who would take this kind of money is compromised. But the larger, more problematic thing is the way in which corruption is now being absolutely integrated into the functioning of this government. Whether or not it's potentially paying off Ghislaine Maxwell by putting her in another court place so that she doesn't say anything about Epstein, or using the FCC to bully different organizations. And now this, we're seeing that everything about this new administration is not just a quid pro quo, but it's making corruption essentially the law. What does that do long term for how any of our agencies will function if everything is a matter of, if you give me this under the table, I'll ignore the law?
What we are watching is the destruction of the rule of law. There, the White House press secretary said that they, the FBI, the Biden administration, knew that he was going to go into the Trump administration. Well, if they knew, then he knew. And that's exactly what the definition of bribery is. When you know you're going to assume a position of power in the United States government and you take cash from anybody, including an undercover sting operation, and we have many of those undercover sting operations that have been conducted by the FBI, and you take cash in return for official action, and now the White House is saying they knew that he was going to go in the Trump administration. That's an admission. That there was a bribe here. And this is a serious problem that we have had, that time after time, when people get caught red-handed violating the law, whether it's bribery or other laws, they simply turn around and say, this is weaponization of the justice system. This is, we're being persecuted. By who? By the law. And we have laws in this country, and people need to obey the law, including the people in the highest positions in the executive branch.
It's fine if cash rules everything around you in the rap game, but not when you're supposed to be protecting the law and following the Constitution. Thank you, Richard Painter, so much for joining us this evening on The Beat.